Every team has their own wrestler. But this is for wrestlers everywhere. Wrestle hard.
All right, welcome back to the Wrestling Mindset Podcast. This is Mindset Mike here, and I'm with my good friend Mike Mao over from Flow Wrestling's Behind the Dirt for our second episode of Mindset Over Mao. This will be the wrestling world's new favorite podcast and will feature every second Monday of the month. Mike, it's good to have you back. I know it's hot in Texas, but how have you been? How have you been since last month?
Oh, I can't complain. Did you say second episode? I think it was like 2.5. I'll be honest about it.
It's kind of like 2.5. Kind of like 2.5.
Yeah, no, look, man, I'm good. I'm really good. When you were saying it was hot out, yesterday I spent most of the day in ice. So today, it being 95, I spent most of the day outside. It's gorgeous out here.
Yeah, man. So, but our guest today, Ben Provisor, it's 41 degrees over in Wisconsin, huh?
Oh, yeah, it's nice and rainy, too. It's real nice. It's 83 in Pennsylvania, and I left it for some reason to go to Wisconsin.
Yeah, no thanks for that. No thanks for that. So our first episode, Mike and I caught up with NCAA champ Yanni Doc-Mahalis, and it was certainly a crowd favorite. This month's guest was just selected as the USA Wrestling's Athlete of the Week for his performance at the Pan American Championship.
Athlete of the Week. Thank you very much.
And Flow Wrestling Athlete of the Week?
Yes.
Wow, I didn't even know you had one. So good to know. So pretty much our guest has swept all of the awards in the wrestling community this past week. He is one of the most accomplished members of the U.S. Greco team as a two-time Olympian, three-time U.S. Open champion. Long resume after that. Most recently, he was a last-minute substitute for Jaden Cox in the freestyle division. And as a Greco guy, he still teched his way to a gold medal in freestyle despite not having wrestled a freestyle match in over 7 years. So, ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome back Ben Provisor, all the way from Peru, now in Wisconsin on his way back to Pennsylvania. How's it going, Ben?
Not much, man. How you guys doing?
Man, good. It's been good. Besides sweating my butt off here in Texas, I'm kind of jealous of your rainy weather.
I don't think you are. I really don't think you are. It was a cold winter. It was a cold winter for the East Coast, and I left 83 degrees. I'd much rather be there, but it's okay.
You know, I said that I was excited to move to the heat when I moved to Texas, and then when I got here and August came, I was like, bro, I will take winter any day.
Yeah, I definitely couldn't do Texas. I would melt. I'm a warm person, so I'm just dude, I lose I lose too much weight, I think. I get skinny again.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
No way, bro. I'll take it all day long.
No thanks. So, Ben, you've obviously been the talk of the town this week among wrestling fans. A Greco wrestler fills in for the returning freestyle Olympian on short notice. You know, before we get into mindset stuff, I want you to tell us a little bit about how that whole situation came about to go from being in the middle of your Greco tournament to teching your way through your bracket in a weight class 6 kilos higher than what your weight was in Greco. Tell us what happened to Jaden. Tell us, you know, how your situation came about and how you ended up stepping up in that role.
Well, I pretty much just got news that Jaden was not feeling well. I really don't know what it was. And then halfway through my tournament, after my time I lost to Cuban, Casey Cunningham came up to me and said, "Hey, you might have to weigh in for freestyle. You don't have to wrestle." But the next day came, and I felt actually better than the first day of Greco. After my 5 matches, and I just went out there and wrestled. My coach talked about it and said, "Hey, what's the best way to get better?" And we thought wrestling 3 more matches would be in my best interest. So I got a question about that. Like, so when Casey comes up to you, right? First of all, it's after your semis loss in Greco, right? So you're probably not the highest spirited person at that point. What goes through your head when he goes, "Hey man, we need you to weigh in," and you know what he really needs, right? Hey, will you wrestle freestyle, right? Like that's really what they mean when they say that, right? I mean, let's be honest about it. What kind of goes through your head? that my body wasn't responding the way I normally wrestle in Greco. I didn't feel good, like, mentally. I didn't feel good mentally either. You know, I could tell my body wasn't responding, like, to the weight cut I had. So, I mean, when he came up to me, I wasn't really too down because I knew I didn't wrestle my best match. I mean, I don't think I was in the right circumstance. And, you know, I didn't get the feeling right away that, you know, I had to wrestle. But then throughout the day, people, like, throughout that day, they're like, hey, I think it's pretty well. You should wrestle. And it was a non-Olympic weight too. So, I mean, they're not sending, there's no too big. They're not sending, like, crazy good guys. And, you know, I just went out there and wrestled. You know, I had a good time. You know, I think a lot of people had a good time watching me, and it's cool to, you know, get a little hype on social media too, just for wrestling some freestyle.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome, man. You know, it's been a long time since you competed in freestyle, and I see kids who train both full time during the spring. They struggle going from Greco in the morning to an afternoon freestyle match, but it didn't seem to phase you much. And like we said, you actually performed very, very well in freestyle. So, you know, what was your mindset going into freestyle? And how did you feel? How did you feel in one way or another that you were able to maybe compete a little bit more freely? Because it's been a long time. There wasn't really a lot of expectations. You just kind of went out there like wrestling is wrestling. Let me get better at wrestling. But, you know, what was some of the talks that you had with yourself as you were getting ready to enter that second part of the tournament?
Well, honestly, you know, I knew I was going to, you know, I'm a Greco wrestler. That's what I'm going to wrestle. So I wasn't really going to change my game plan too much as far as what I was going to do. I was going to do the same things I do in Greco that make me so dangerous. So that's really was my mindset going into it. You know, even Casey, he was just like, well, just beat everybody in a hand fight. And that's all I did the whole time. I just got in a low stance. As soon as they grabbed me, I just got into a Greco match. So that was my mindset going into that.
I like that because you kept. Go ahead, man. Go ahead.
They shot on me a few. No, you're good. I mean, they shot on me a few times. I didn't really take a shot, but I just sort of waited for them to come to me, and then once I got my hands on them, it turned into a Greco match.
I like how you put that because you're like, I'm going to wrestle my match. I don't care what style it is. I'm not going to change what I'm doing. And that's very much like the definition of a predator mindset is, I haven't wrestled a freestyle match in 7 years. Yeah, I haven't, you know, I'm going into the freestyle tournament, but I'm going to make you wrestle Greco, whether you like it or not. And if I get on top of you, it's going to be game over. So, you know, you force them to, you almost force them to be in a prey position. They didn't have an option. You know, before we you know, get in to talk a little bit more about wrestling, man, what's this I hear about you having chickens? What's that all about?
Well, I can give you more backstory this time, but so I lived in Wisconsin, and the lady I lived with had like 16 chickens. Actually, where it really started, she had 2 chickens, and there was a rooster, and like there was one rooster and one normal chicken. And this rooster terrorized me for like 3 months. It was chasing me around the farm. It was like, so I just had, every time I come outside, I would get chased by this rooster. Apparently, he could like smell me or something. He didn't like my set. I don't know what was going on. So, I really liked the eggs that I would get from the chickens that we had on the farm. I just thought they were a lot better, so I ended up buying chicken once I bought a house out in PA. So I got 11 chickens. I actually just finished putting the chicken coop together yesterday before I left for this trip. So
you started off with 11? Like you couldn't get like 3?
I know. I definitely went way too big. I definitely got way too big. Maybe I was just rolling at my house. I don't know. Penn State, there's not much to do there. But I originally got 8, it was like a 6 for 2 deal, and then I got 8 of them. So I got 8 there, and then I saw these chickens that laid green and blue eggs. I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. So I got 4 more. So I started with 12. Then they had a fight. Then when I left for this trip for nationals in Peru, I guess they had a fight for who was alpha, and then one died. So,
yeah, apparently that happened. Look, man, every time you make technique over and sometimes an egg gets broken, you know?
Yeah, it is what it is.
So what happens like when you go on a trip? What happens when you go on a trip? Do you got to get do you have to get a chicken sitter?
I mean, I have people that live like right next to me that are on the like part of the staff and stuff. So no, they come and check on them. But now that they're outside, it's pretty much just keeping their food and their water filled up.
That's funny. That's funny. So, you know,
Some sort of a chicken sitter. So yeah, I guess.
You know, hey, you know, maybe we can create an app if having chickens is a popular thing out in Pennsylvania. Maybe we can create like a, you know, dog sitting has an app now. Maybe we make a chicken sitting app and make some money.
Interesting.
That's funny.
I don't know about that one.
So speaking of Penn State, you recently made a move to the Nittany Lion Wrestling Club after a time in Wisconsin, a long time in Colorado. Tell us a little bit about your journey starting from your year at Northern Michigan, why you left, and then, you know, you spent a long time at the OTC and in that area. So tell us about that journey. Why did you choose Greco and everything that led up to Penn State?
Well, as far as Greco goes, I never won a high school state title, but I won every age group national title you can win in Greco. So I don't know, it's my better style for some reason. I don't know why I was so much better at it. And then I went to Northern Michigan, and Yvonne, I wanted to get coached by Yvonne Ivanov. He had some great wrestlers for a long time. And unfortunately, I think he left that program right when I got there when I was, 19.
What year was that? What year was that?
2009.
Okay. Right. So you're 2 years removed from the U.S.'s first world title, and he moved. Okay. Gotcha.
Yeah. And that was a dominant place. There was a lot of
No, it was killer. There was killers
great
there,
world
dude.
champs. I mean, they were beasts. A lot of the medalists that we have from the last decade are from Northern Michigan. So, and some is on. And so Dennis, my coach went there, Dennis Hall. I was there for a year. And then they made this rule where you couldn't stay at Northern Michigan for more than 5 years. So that made all the good guys, all the guys that I wanted to train with left. Because I was already a Greco specialist in high school. I was wrestling in the U.S. Open as a high schooler, playing. So,
hey, can we stop right there? So when you, what is that conversation like when you kind of have to tell your high school wrestling coach, like, hey man, yeah, this state title stuff is cute and all, but I'm trying to win a world medal. What is that conversation like?
Well, I don't know if when I was wrestling for him, I think he just told me to wrestle hard. I don't think it was, but when it wasn't, I didn't change my wrestling style again, but when I wrestled, and my goal sheet as a freshman was to actually be a 2012 Olympian. It wasn't to be a state champ. I didn't care about state championship. Like, that was my goal as a young high schooler. So,
right, but you have to understand that most high school coaches, they will kind of pigeonhole you into, hey, look, we have to do what's best for this team. What's best for this team is you winning a state title in folk style, not winning, not trying to make a 12 Olympic team, right?
Yeah.
And if that's your focus,
sure. For sure. Definitely, maybe that's why I didn't win state titles. That's actually a great point, because it wasn't really the focal point of my career. I knew that wasn't going to be, like, what defined me. But I can't, I definitely tried to win a state championship. I was crushed when I lost my senior year. So, that's not for a lack of trying, because I'm way too competitive not to try to win. So,
right, but it's just not. It wasn't. They of course you're going to try and win, right? But it's also like, hey, I'm trying to win a medal here. I'm not trying to win a state title. And while those are awesome, it's far more important. The gravity of an Olympic team is far bigger than winning a high school state title. And I think a lot of kids are so scared, and they're so pressured by their high school situation, and even by their parents sometimes, right? Like some of these guys.
Oh, no doubt.
Got to win a state title. Got to go to college. Got to get a scholarship.
Yeah. I don't know, man. Maybe this kid loves to chuck people on their dome, man. Maybe we let him do that, you know?
It would definitely be better for U.S. kids if you specialize in a style young. Because look at the Europeans. Like that, when you have a, almost an 8-year gap where you don't wrestle any Greco, you're in trouble. That's a big gap to fill, especially after wrestling folk style for, 15 years.
Yeah. Yeah, and the problem, and so, you and I have talked about it before, and I kind of got off the phone with you, and I go, well, man, he's right. He's right. It's hard for these kids to grow up wrestling folk style and then switch gears immediately and go, oh, I'm a Greco guy. Well, it doesn't work quite that easily, man.
It's a really different body style.
Yeah, it's a different style. It's a different, hey, you can call it what you want, but it's a different mindset, okay? It's truth, right?
Yeah.
It's a different mindset. So, and then what happens is, like, especially folk style, like, I'm not even going to preach the subject of freestyle, right? But folk style is such a control-based art form that we learn to wrestle under those mental parameters, right? Like, I have to have so much control for a takedown and to score points. Then all of a sudden we take that, or it kind of follows us over into the international styles. And then you go, well, why would I go for an arm spin, right, when I can't get up on top of them sometimes? Well, guess what? You don't have to get up on top of them. Sometimes you just put him on his head and see what happens,
Yeah, no doubt. Definitely, we're taught to take less risk almost in folk style because we have to control things. Yeah, I can see that. Totally. It's a good point.
Yeah. So I'm sorry, I totally cut you off. So you were talking about high school and then and that kind of stuff. And you were.
I went to. You're good. So everybody left Northern Michigan. That's why I moved to Colorado, and then obviously, we thought end up having a relationship, having a daughter, and then what happened? I moved back to. I felt like I wasn't getting the right thing. Colorado, I made an Olympic team at 74 kilos, but I moved up a weight class. I just felt like relationship-wise and coaching-wise, I wasn't getting what I needed, and then I ultimately, before the 2016 Olympics. Olympic trials, I went to Florida and trained there with Jordan Steeler for 4 months. Then after that, I came back to Wisconsin, trained on the farm with Downey. I was at the farm for a few months by myself, and then I went and got Downey when he was having trouble at Iowa State. And then now I'm at Penn State.
Tell us a little bit about you and Downey. So, he's an overhook guy. You're an underhook guy. He's a brawler. Definitely not your typical cut from the typical cloth kind of dude on and off the mat. What was it like training with him? What was the benefits for you? What was the benefits for you, and what was the benefit for him?
Well, we're big contrast in styles. He's tall and lanky. I'm short and stocky. We're both fighters, when we get into wrestling, we'll both fight for every position. So I had a really good underhook, he had a really good overhook, and it would make us, collaborate on a lot of cool stuff and be able to wrestle. Just because you're a Greco or freestyle guy doesn't mean you can't wrestle. Wrestling's wrestling. As soon as I get my hands on you, like I was saying in Greco, I'm going to do the same thing. So, when you get a lot better at hand fighting wrestling Greco guys. My underhook's different, so it's really good for freestyle guys to get that feel. And, it's good for me to feel, let people letting me into, underhooks that are sort of baiting me to try to hit other moves. So, we were good friends since 2012. I thought he was going through some troubles at Iowa State and, wasn't getting along with a lot of people. So I went and picked him up, and lived in my house or lived in the farm with me for so many months, and we just trained. Mile run, we would always hit, just out in the middle of the country, keeping the wild bounty away from bad things.
Sometimes he can be his own worst enemy, I'm sure.
Yeah, man. He's a hard worker, man. He really is. Once he gets in a situation where I feel like he can trust the people, he thought he was gonna get his opportunity at Iowa, and I think they were telling him a lot of stuff that wasn't really true. When I talked to my coaches at Penn State stuff, they were like, "Oh yeah, I don't think that transfer was ever really going down because of all the in-state and Big Ten to Big Ten." So, I think he got taken advantage of a little bit there. I feel bad for him.
Yeah, that sucks.
He gets in a situation where he can train and work hard and show who he really is. I think he'll be obviously one of the top people in the U.S. once he's in great shape.
Yeah, man, he's definitely a gamer. So, speaking of Penn State is known for winning national titles in college, but not really for Greco. So, what led you to Penn State, and what has been the impact in your training since you've been there?
Well, Mason Manville made the world team last year when we were in Rustin Paris. He brought up to Kale about me coming to Penn State. We had talked about it a little bit. I didn't know if he was being serious or not, and obviously he was. He talked to Kale, and then me and Kale talked about it at Worlds. Came out for a visit, and we just thought we all got along real well, and it was a great fit for me to help myself, just move along in my life. So I feel like I'm going through the prime of my career. With the help I get from Indy Lion Wrestling Club, I can, start a life, really,
For sure. So you said that you stayed at Kale's house when you first got there. What was that like?
Oh, it was pretty very awesome. I think it sort of just shows the type of person he is, and it's scary how perfect of a person he is. So
that's what his brother says too.
Live up to those standards, huh?
I was saying that's what his brother said too.
So how perfect in every way, meaning, so he's just
always yeah, he doesn't do anything wrong. I don't know what it's like. He's a real religious person. He has a lot of great beliefs. He reads his kids the Bible, verses from the Book of Mormon every night. So he's just a great person. It's scary.
Wow.
For those of you.
When you're around that, it's hard not to do the same things.
Yeah, well, I think that's part of the atmosphere there. I call it the championship atmosphere. When you're surrounded not just by good wrestlers, but by good people, as a byproduct, you become a better person. And by becoming a better person, you become a better wrestler. And it feeds into each other. I think that was my impression as an outsider looking in. What's so special about that place is, all these people care about each other. They're all good people. They make each other better people. They have a similar belief system. So as a group, they all rise up. So, what do you think is so special about the staff and about the atmosphere?
A good thing, Mal was saying yesterday, he gets to go and hang out with his buddies and talk about wrestling, We're doing the same thing. We got to come in and work out and beat up on each other and get better at wrestling every day. How lucky are you to, be able to do that? Even though Mal might not look at it as an attitude of gratitude, that is the definition of it. You're lucky to do what you love to do every single day, and it's like a dream come true. So everybody just wants to get better in that situation, and like you said, we just talked about, as becoming a better person. So it's just like you said, a championship atmosphere.
So the attitude of gratitude.
To see it. Yeah, but it's funny, I just never coined the phrase. I just always kind of thought I was just super lucky, Like today, literally today, right? I got up, I made breakfast for my kids, and then I went to the gym and I shot 70 videos, right? And I got to try on some new shoes, new wrestling shoes, which I'm kind of into, right? And Vader was there with me, and we're goofing around the whole time. And the production team that's around us, they can't believe how much fun we're having. I'm like, dude, are you serious? I did this when I was a kid. I literally did this since I was 8 years old. Like, I've been doing the same shit for 30 years.
Yeah.
You know, I'm goofing around with my friends, man, and they don't get it. You know, they look at it as, well, it's just another shoot. And Vader's goofing me. He's trying, like we're doing high crotch finishes and stuff like that. We're doing crotch lock. And, like, he's, like, I'm trying to talk, and he's, like, shoving a finger in my butt. I'm like, dude, knock it off. You know, like, we're goofing around the whole time, dude. And
that's like everybody that does the United Wrestling Club, you know, we're lucky, grateful to be able to wrestle for who we wrestle for, and, you know, hopefully keep getting better every single day until, you know, 2020 or 2024 for me. So.
For sure. So I just did the podcast with Kyler talking about Kale's brother, you know, and he says, and the whole podcast was about gratitude, about how it's the center of the Sanderson success and it's the center of Penn State success. And, you know, that's what you were preaching, is saying, you know, it's what's so special about down there. They love being there because you're so grateful for the opportunity. When you're grateful for opportunities, you know, the first principle in wrestling mindset, I'm thankful for the opportunity to wrestle. You know, you're thankful for the opportunity to do 20 different things that the Nittany Lion Club allows you to. Wrestle around the best guys in the world, have the best coaching staff in the world, have a situation that allows you to, you know, grow as a person and grow as a wrestler. So, you know, it's important, I think, for those of you that are listening, you know, number one, if you haven't listened to the Kyler Sanderson podcast, you better download that ASAP. But secondarily, you know, this is now the second person who's saying this 2 weeks in a row, talking about how gratitude is so important and how it's the success story of the people at Penn State. So, guys, this isn't just something that one or two people are saying. This is something from top to bottom and left to right. You got to take some more notice to.
Hey, can I butt in for just 1 second?
Yeah. Go for it.
I don't mean to cut you off, but the truth of the matter is, I think it's important that we say that that's not the case in every wrestling room.
Yes.
Okay? So what I want people, especially kids listening to this, to recognize is what came first. Are they successful and then they became grateful for their opportunity? Or were they just grateful for their opportunity and loved it so much that they became successful? Well, the truth of the matter is I can't really answer that question, but I got a good idea that it's the second one, right? I mean, I got a good idea that they feel so lucky to be able to train every day that they kind of just leave it out there. Whereas there are so many wrestling rooms in the country that you walk into, and I'm not kidding about this. Like I do a lot of camps and I do a lot of clinics, and you walk into some of these wrestling rooms, and it feels like a freaking mortuary, dude. It feels like a morgue that you're walking. You know what I'm talking about too, right, Ben? Like you walk in there and you're like, y'all are not happy to be here, man. And there's a time and a place, right? Like there's certain times of the year where if you walk into a high school room in January, it's gonna feel icky because everybody hates wrestling at that point, you know? Because I remember when I was in high school, if coach told me to hit one more high crash to a double, I was gonna thumb my eyes out, right? But for the most part, there's going to be an overall feel of a room, and I've been in that Penn State room. I put two athletes on that team, and I can remember walking in there going, these dudes are psyched to be here. I know they're psyched to be here because they're goofing around beforehand. They stay afterwards. They're playing, games, and they're playing soccer, and every time Barner gets the ball in soccer, everyone ducks because, he's just going to pound on it, So it's like, it's a goofy thing. It's a fun thing,
Barner definitely has a cannon in what's it called, dodgeball. A lot of people avoid Barner because he's a little intimidating.
Are you sure? Are you positive? Yeah, the guy that looks like Shrek. Oh, that's shocking. Really.
So are you guys a dodgeball team, a spike ball team, both, or what do you guys play?
Dodgeball, handball. Handball.
I wish it was handball, man.
No, really? I remember
we haven't played too much. I was a big Kale liked it. When I was playing, I'm pretty vocal because I played football and stuff. suck or drop the ball. I'm gonna say it. I don't think you understand all this bad stuff. I was saying all these bad things about him. I was like, we haven't played running gun in a while. It's mostly dodgeball, but I had fun with it either way.
That's funny, man. That's funny. It's important to keep things light. And I think, people need to realize that, in addition to being grateful, you need to learn how to have fun. And being grateful allows you to have fun. If you're not grateful for something, you're really not going to enjoy doing it. If you said you love fishing, right? So if you love fishing, you're grateful for that. So when you go fishing, you're like, hell yeah, I'm dialed in. I'm ready to catch some fish. It could be cold as hell. Wherever you're at, dropping fish in dropping a cast in an ice hole, but you're like, man, I'm just so excited to fish. And if kids could be like that about wrestling, man, they would wrestle better, and maybe our sport wouldn't be dying in some states like it is.
Yeah, definitely. You definitely need to enjoy it.
For sure.
Enjoying what you're doing, you don't work a day in your life.
You're absolutely right.
I've been lucky enough to do that.
For sure. So, Ben, unlike other guests on our podcast, you've actually participated in wrestling mindset training. We worked with the U.S. Greco and women's freestyle team leading up to the Rio Olympics. I was actually there with Gene Zanetti in person, delivering a week's worth of training to you guys. So you saw it, you felt it, you did it. What did you think of the training? How is it different than what you've done before? And, tell me a little bit about that.
Well, I just think it was a lot easier to relate to everyday wrestler than any other program. I've been doing psychologists a bunch, and you guys just broke it down to wrestler or fighter's mindset, and that it really helped me. I guess it simplified it. You guys simplified it and made it easier for a lot of wrestlers and families to get easy access to what the right mindset is to be a champ. It's even in any sport, not just wrestling. Every sport's the same way. If you're worried about what somebody else is going to do, they're probably going to score a touchdown. So it's just life.
For sure. So
always be worried about getting better.
So the fact that it was sport specific to wrestling, the fact that it was wrestlers talking to you, and that it was broken down in a simple form that you can utilize through interactive communication and worksheets versus, hey, let's go talk about our feelings.
No doubt.
For sure.
It's definitely a much easier for a wrestler or young kid to grasp.
For sure. So, there's something that you said a while back that's always stuck with me. Speaking of, mindset training, that reminds us all that no one is Superman, not even Olympians that are built like Superman like you. So one of the core principles behind mindset training is to keep the focus on ourselves and not our opponents, our moves, our pace, our ties, not worried about what our opponent's doing. And you said you had never been more prepared physically to compete at a competition as you were for Rio, but you said you didn't win in Rio because you were so focused on what you knew your opponent was going to do rather than getting to your own attacks. So what's changed about that mindset? And, how did that, how did that affect your performance at Rio? And what do you do differently now learning from that situation?
Well, obviously I lost in Rio because of that. So, I just have to learn from it. There's a reason that it happened. There's a reason that I went through it and I wasn't worried about my attacks. It's just, I think, comes with growing as an athlete. And I think being able to realize that and being able to, say that to myself, now I can move on with it, try to get better, and just worry about what I'm going to do and how I'm going to wrestle somebody. And as far as changing the way I wrestle, I just know I need to force my position in every position. I can't sit and wait for a European to do something because that's when I'm going to get beat. Especially, parterre. Even if I give him a chance in parterre, I'm probably going to lose because my parterre game is just not up to what a lot of foreigners are. They just have better parterre, and that's not wrestling it for if we wrestle it for 2 or 1 month, how good are we going to get in international parterre? So I definitely forced me to adjust how I'm going to wrestle, and just wrestle hard the whole time, I would say.
For sure. So I have two short questions for that, and then I want to hear you and Mal kind of dive into, some of the talks that we've had previously about the importance of training Greco, why we're behind, the difference between the Europeans, how do we get there? We talk about what happened to you at Rio. What's the difference? Ben Provisor, London Olympics, Ben Provisor, Rio Olympics, Ben Provisor today, like walking away from the Pan Ams. I'll say one thing, obviously you're very focused on yourself now because you went and you went and out Greco'd a bunch of freestyle guys. So you weren't worried about what they were going to do. You didn't care if they if they shot. You weren't worried about shooting. You're just like, I'm going to do my game, and I'm going to force you to move my game. So obviously we know where you're at with that now, but overall, like mindset wise, what you're focusing on when you wrestle, what did Ben look like in 2012 versus 2016 versus today?
Well, 2012, I feel like I was just a young kid. I actually had to live really right just to be able to make 163 pounds. I was walking. I weighed 190 in high school. Probably 200 during football. So making 153 was a lifestyle change for a few months. So I think that's what really helped me make that team. I really didn't have much mental training, I would say. And then 2016, obviously I was up at 85 kilos, and I feel like I'm just still growing into myself. 2016, I feel like I started listening. Like what I really felt like is I started listening to God and what He wanted me to do. And once I started doing that, like things in my life started to fall into place. And as soon as I did that, for this I put my faith in Him, and then I got this job at Penn State. So now I just know the type of shape I'm in, the way I live, like who I'm around. I can trust the people I'm with, and I feel like this year is going to be the first year I win a world medal. So I feel like just my confidence is through the roof because of like who I've become. I'd say just listening to what I feel like I'm supposed to do in life.
So being around the right people, obviously you've changed your situation a few times. So now being at Penn State, being around the right people, listening to what God has to say, having faith impact your wrestling. I don't know if you've listened to, but the two podcasts prior to Kyler were talking about the importance of faith in wrestling. So Seth Gross and Jack Mueller kind of dove into that. So on your long drive back from Wisconsin, you're welcome to pop that in and take a listen. I think you'll enjoy it. So, long story short, you guys, you've heard how wrestling is a journey. It's a transformation. You got to trust the process. You got to find the right people around you to guide you in the right direction. But ultimately, you got to keep the focus on yourself. So, let's change gears for a second. And something that, we've all talked about before, and you guys dove into some great conversation is, Mal, let's go and start talking. What are we not doing right in the U.S. for Greco? What are we missing? Why are we having talented kids and some people that are destroying people on the national scene? They go overseas and it's like they're just like anybody else. So Mal, I'll let you take the lead.
There's one reason. It's called folk style.
So, absolutely right. So, go ahead and talk more about that. Mike's yours, man.
Well, I just think that it's really hard. There's not a lot of great coaches. You look in the last, like I said, in the last 10, 30 years, you've had 4 world Olympic champs. Not too many people are really at that level. It's a completely different style. You know what I'm saying? Like the way you wrestle folk style with your feet forward, protecting your leg, and then you gotta be able to open your hips and wrestle like more side to side in Greco. So it's just a completely different body style. There's not many people that are specialized in it in the United States. So if we have 4 world champs placed and really good coaches, say we have 5 good coaches in all of the United States, how possibly can we get? How many people wrestle in the nation? I don't even know how many kids wrestle. There's a couple hundred thousand. But so how are coaches going to get a couple 100,000 people better? They're not. So exactly. I guess what
So I thought about it, right? So, like, I guess the first time I kind of breached this subject with you, it was a bit too vague, right? Like, I kind of left the ball in your court saying, okay, well, what are we going to do to get better in Greco? And that is really a broad stroke question. That's a difficult question to answer because there's so many different things, right? Yeah, right. Yeah. There's just so many different things that we need to do at every level. At literally every level, right? So from youth level all the way up to senior level to get better at Greco. How about this? Let's do this. I'm going to ask Ben Provisor, what two positions on a wrestling mat does this country need to improve ASAP? Like, where do we need to do the most work between now and, let's call it, Tokyo?
Parterre.
100%. Parterre offense? Offense or defense?
Parterre offense and defense. Parterre, you look the way we move, the way we move on bottom, we always seem to get turned. And how we can get turned. You look at how people are winning medals in Parterre. It's by not getting turned and by turning people. So if you can do that in a match, you can compete with anybody in the world. So I agree.
What are you working on? What are you working on in Parterre right now?
Well, right now I need to work on my Parterre in general. I haven't been showing at the Pan Ams and at trials. This is the first time I've been turned on bottom in years. So I need to work on it more. And really, especially in Parterre, I think the biggest thing, once you start moving and once you get ahead of somebody, you stay ahead. The second
ahead on the scoreboard?
No, ahead on, like,
Position.
Say somebody gets a lock. Say you get a lock, right? And as soon as I start moving, I can't stop. Because as soon as I stop, if you have a good lock, that's when I'm going to get in trouble. So I just can't rest. You have to give up a lock to Greco, so eventually they're going to get their hands locked. And, you have to sort of, I would say, guide it to where you want it to go. But you can't, if you stay open or closed for too long, you get in trouble. I got to file against me in the Olympic team trials, too, for it. So, you got to give people a lock. But once you start moving and you feel where his hands are, you have to keep that pressure on their lock and make sure you break it and stay ahead of them.
Interesting. Okay. Awesome.
That type of thing, though, would be easier for me to show you, show you.
Yeah, no, I know. I have a good idea what you're saying, but I agree with you 100%. Next time we see each other, for sure, I'm going to make sure to get down to Parterre defense. I know it's not going to be fun. That's the other thing that's really difficult, right? Is that nobody likes drilling gut wrenches, Bub. Nobody likes it. It's miserable. Mm-hmm. Yeah, but we have to do it.
That's why Yvonne invented the bone dummy, because people were complaining. They're like, you can't keep drilling on me. You're gonna hurt my ribs. Wah wah wah.
Yeah. But my coach always, Dennis would always say, eventually you're just gonna have to bite the bullet on the gut wrench. So you just gotta eat it. You gotta eat the pain. And that's always for a gut wrench. It's part of it.
He's a really tough dude.
Dennis is super tough.
He's a tough dude. I've worked with guys that, the Kuntz brothers spent a lot of time with him. So not to interrupt the flow of why we need to get better in Greco, but what makes a guy like Dennis Hall so tough?
Say that again.
I was gonna say, not to interrupt the flow, but on a side note, what makes a guy like Dennis Hall so tough? He was a very accomplished wrestler, and people related to him being so tough. Kids that wrestle him still say, yeah, coach just beats the daylights out of me when we wrestle. What's so tough about him?
He's just impossible to get to. His hand fighting is ridiculous. And he's one of the toughest people I know. He just has a will to win. He just doesn't give up any position. Even when he was up at Northern Michigan and Spencer Manko was making the team, he would have matches with Spencer. I'll just say that.
Wow.
So he's just a tough dude, man. He's just good wrestler. That's what he was meant to do. You watch him in high school, he was something special. So, I mean, he was a young world champ, 25-year-old world champ, 26-year-old Olympic silver medalist, arguably the best lightweight to ever wrestle for the United States.
Wow, that's awesome, man. So, we're talking about a great wrestler like him, and we've talked about before how it's important, watch the guys that do what you do, but they do it the best in the world. So, if you were going to say, let's just say overall, like, who is the best Greco wrestler in the world of any weight class? We're talking about in neutral. Who has the best neutral and Greco in the world, outside of you, of course?
Neutral, huh? Neutral, I'd have to say that Armenian. The Armenian, 60 kilos. He's a special wrestler, man.
Albanian.
Yeah, he's won the last, few world championships, won the Olympics. I mean, he's a special wrestler, and he's great in parterre too.
Yeah, he's pretty good in parterre too. I was just gonna say that. He's not bad, man. He can lift. He can stand on top.
That was on the
Yeah. That's no joke, dude. But for me, man, I love me some Blatsoff. I just love watching the guy. Like as soon as he gets on top, I love watching him fight for a lot. Yeah, I love, so there's these little nuances in there too. Like I love watching him fight for a lot, and I love how athletic he can be with another person moving underneath him. Like it's incredible to me the way he can move his feet, right? Like,
especially when he's in shape.
Such a good position. Yeah, if he trains for something, good luck trying to get him on bottom, man, because he's better than anybody else.
First time I ever watched him wrestle at Junior Worlds, I was like, this dude's special. He teched everybody. So I definitely know what you're saying. And sometimes he's come to tournaments out of shape and not ready for him, but when you're totally right. When he's on his game and wants to wrestle, he's not gonna give up in.
So can you guys name those two wrestlers so that those that are listening, if they want to check it out, so name who they are and what country they're from.
Vlasov from Russia, and I believe it's who's the Armenian? I just said his name. Darn it. Give me a second.
I'm horrible with names. I'm not going to be able to get it. I already know that.
Alexandrian? Is that right? Alexandrian?
It's something with an A.
How many kilos? What was the weight class?
96.
Yeah, I got it. Here's right here. I got it. So it's Artur Alexandrian. I was right. Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
Artur, yeah.
So, guys, these are the people so, Mal, obviously Ben loves Greco, but Mal, little known fact, or maybe a widely known fact, Mal loves Greco. And, and actually, Mike, shout out to you for how good you are at Greco. Best kid that I've coached the last 4 years here in Houston. He was turning a lot of corners, made the semifinals at Fargo, double All-American as a freshman. But to get him to the next level, man, I really credit a lot of that to, what you were able to do, bringing in good partners and lots of mentorship was great for his development. But, those of you that ever get the chance to learn from Mal, regardless of style, but man, you really did a lot for Colin. So I do appreciate that. And it's a lot of the details.
Well, thank you. And it's very kind of you to say, but what's funny about it is Ben mentioned earlier, right? There's probably 5 and maybe that's being a bit conservative. Maybe there's 10. Maybe there's 10 solid world-class Greco coaches in this country. Ben, is that crazy to say?
No.
That's about right? Anywhere between 5
hard to name 10.
Yeah, right. So it's probably somewhere around 7, right? I've had the luxury. I've been so fortunate that I've been around 3 or 4 of them, right? So really what I'm doing is I'm doing an imitation of them, right? Because I know Ron and his system of wrestling is so freaking good, man. And then there's guys that are in the Midwest that that are pretty good, and there's guys that are out east that are pretty good. Like, there's a guy that's out in Jersey. His name is Matthew Ciampa, and he's the most understated person you'll ever meet. He hates talking in front of people, but he's one of the best Greco coaches I've ever learned from. And so, basically, when I'm training guys in Greco, I have guys like Colin who really focus on Greco, especially in the last year of his life. I'm doing a Matt Ciampa impression, and which is fine, like all good coaching is stealing from somewhere, right? So, but yeah, that's, you mentioned it earlier. These kids need to have good, focalized, specialized training. They're not, and if they're not getting it, they're not going to be able to excel. Not at a national level.
Now, Fretwell said it best when we were doing the California Coaches Clinic. He said, they were like, man, how did you come up with this? He's like, I didn't come up with half of this. He's like, the best coaches are good thieves. He's like, we all see it, take it, and then make it our own and spin it to what we need for our kids and our own development. But yeah, man, I mean, it's being around the right people and being able to take what they do and apply it to what we need. So, do you guys have anything else, Ben and Mike? Do you have anything else on how to add value and grow U.S. Greco?
Oh, I don't know. I hope some more young kids specialize in it. I don't know. Tough.
Well, yeah, I mean, look, that's such a layered question. Yeah, it's a road, man. It's a road that has to be paved.
You have a passion for it?
Yeah.
So how about this? Let's encourage kids to train Greco by answering a simple question. As a high school wrestler, whether you want to go to Northern Michigan or whether you just want to be a better wrestler, why should you train Greco? In a short response.
It's way better. And fighting is just a different level. It's more like a.
How about this?
It's more like.
Go ahead. I'm sorry, man. That's my fault.
You're good. You're good.
Here's what it is to me. Our best athletes in this country don't have one upper body threat. Who's the best two wrestlers in this country? Kyle Snyder,
Carlson Snyder.
Okay? Guess what? They know. And how about this? When Godoyev beat JB at the Olympics in Rio, he just hit him with an underhook and dragged him around the mat. Okay? I mean, it wasn't like rocket science. He didn't have to scramble him. He's not going to blow his doors off with a double. Okay? And you look at these positions, they know those especially those Europeans know that if they drag us up out of a low stance, we're in trouble, man. We're in trouble, and we don't have any answer for that stuff. And I'm not saying it's going to bite us in the ass tomorrow or even next year or even by Tokyo, but I will say this, it's going to bite us in the ass. And these kids coming up now, I'm trying to at least shift the social conscience in the sport, right? I have a saying, and I goof around, and you've heard me say it, Mike. I don't live in Gretkoville, but I summer there quite often, right? Like I don't live there, but man, oh man, I like to vacation there quite a bit because it'll bail you out of some stuff, right? Like 4-pointers are valuable, brother. 4-pointers are super valuable. They're worth 3 takedowns, right? If you really think about it, right? I mean, I hit you with an arm throw for 4. You now have to, if you're down 4-0, you got to come back and get 3 takedowns to be winning, or at least 3 scores, right? So, it's a valuable commodity that we tend to overlook because a lot of these kids think that, well, I'm just going to wrestle freestyle anyway, and it's more like folk style, and that's where I'm going to make my money, and this and that. No, we really need to focus on Greco too.
So, Mike, I know you got to head out, and you got lots of stuff to take care of. It's your first weekend in a while that you're not traveling, right?
You know what? I've actually been fortunate enough to be home. Like the guys at Float know that I would like to, spend time with my family, so they're kind enough to find other ways to keep me busy. So basically, I'm just traveling for camps and clinics right now.
That's awesome.
I'm doing a lot of pre-production stuff for Final X in the studio. So yeah, I'm home this weekend, and then I'm in Indiana next week and North Carolina the week after.
Thank you for reminding me about Indiana. I worked with a couple teams in Indiana, so I'll make sure that I'll send you them the information. I'll send them the information so they can come to camp.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
For sure. And then, Mike, before you sign off and Ben and I get into the Mindset Quickfire, you have a really exciting camp coming up with two of the biggest legends of wrestling. So can you tell us about it?
Yeah, it's a really catchy name. They're calling it the Sergey and Anatoly Beloglazov camp. And basically it's being coined as 12 world titles and some schmucks from Jersey. So basically it's me and the Beloglazov brothers, and I get to learn as much as I teach. So it should be fun.
Well, where can we find out information about that camp so that those don't want to go?
Sunnyvale Wrestling is the Black Sheep Wrestling Club out in Northern California is going to be hosting, and we're doing he talked to me about coming out, and obviously the technique was a big part of it, but the truth is, while I'm out there, man, I'm gonna get a bunch of wall talks. We were doing those those post-workout wall talks with Alger and some of those guys. And we're going to do a couple with the Beloglazov brothers. We're going to do one with Marky Munoz and also Mark Branch. So, we should have a ton of content coming from there, not just me going out there and teaching a camp.
Cool. Well, those of you that want to come to that camp, whether you're in California or maybe some nearby states, make sure that you go check that out. Speaking of camps, I'm excited to be in Utah. I'll be doing a camp with Kale and Zane Rutherford over at Sanderson Wrestling Academy. So those of you that are interested in coming to these camps, make sure you go online, check it out. Mike, it was great to have you again for episode number 2. Looking forward to see who we come up with for number 3. And my man, keep up what you're doing. Keep changing wrestling.
Thank you, brother. Hey, Ben, thanks so much for your help. Take it easy, man. No worries.
All right, Mike. So, Ben, we're going to finish you up here. Again, appreciate your time. I know you're a busy guy. So, 10 really simple questions. We call it the Mindset Quickfire. Really, really simple, straightforward, diving into, who you are as a wrestler between the ears. So, how important is mindset in wrestling and why?
Well, like I said yesterday, I think it's about 80% of our wrestling. You got to be confident in what you're doing and the way you're training and who you're around. And I think a lot of that comes from mindset. If you're not focused on what you're going to do, you're not going to get what you need done. So if you don't believe, you're not going to put the work in. So everybody thinks it's a lot of physical work, but if you don't believe in what you're doing, then the physical work is going to be even harder.
Absolutely. And last but not least, what's your mental edge when you compete?
My mental edge, I think I'm just tougher than everybody when it really comes down to it. I'll take myself in a fight over anybody. So I believe that when it really comes down to a tough match, that my will is going to outlast yours.
Absolutely. That's awesome, man. Well, I appreciate your time today. I know you're driving all the way from, where you're at to Wisconsin. So I appreciate that. Is there anything that you'd like to tell the listeners before we wrap up, whether it be advice or anything that you've got coming up?
No, I'm good. I appreciate you having me on.
Yeah, thanks, man. So again, guys, make sure that you check out our podcast. We've got lots of others that are also uploaded, from NCAA champs to great coaches. Make sure that you follow Ben. Ben, how do we find you on social media?
Just Ben Provisor. Find me on all social media, on Twitter. Ben Provisor 74. I don't weigh 74 kilos anymore, but that's where it's stuck at. And then Instagram, just under Ben Provisor. I don't know if I can get any more friend requests on Facebook, but yeah.
Cool. Make sure that you follow us, Wrestling Mindset, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. You can follow me, Mindset Mike, mindset_Mike on Instagram and Twitter. Pretty simple. You can find the same thing on Facebook. So again, Ben, thank you for your time. Best of luck at the trials. And, again, congratulations on your continued success. And we look forward to seeing you continue to progress in your career.